It was supposed to be a quiet Sunday afternoon. My wife and I had just moved into a new neighborhood full of promise, with friendly faces and peaceful streets, or so we thought. My wife, 7 months pregnant, was walking our dog just a few steps from our front yard when things took a turn we never expected. Out of nowhere, a woman we later found out was part of the HOA stormed up to her, yelling about some supposed violation. It was about the dog being too close to a flower bed. Harsh words turned into something worse. What happened next left us both in shock. This woman, let's call her Karen, wasn't just rude. She got up in my wife's face, pointing fingers, calling her names. And when my wife tried to calmly explain, she was just following the neighborhood guidelines. Karen didn't want to hear it. What she did next was beyond anything we could have imagined. No one ever expects something like this in a community that's supposed to be safe, especially not toward a pregnant woman, and definitely not toward someone who knows the law better than most. You see? What Karen didn't realize is that my wife isn't just another new neighbor. She's a federal lawyer, calm, smart, and someone who knows exactly how to handle situations like this, but she never thought she'd need those skills at home. The moment things escalated, everything changed. And once the police showed up, and the truth started coming out, well, Karen's day went from bad to worse real fast. We caught most of it on our security cam, and we weren't the only ones watching. Neighbors started to step in. Some took Karen's side until the full story came out. And what happened when my wife finally spoke up? Let's just say Karen found out real quick she picked the wrong woman to mess with. Stick around. Because what came next had the entire HOA scrambling and Karen facing something she never saw coming. Now, let me back up and give you a little more context, because this wasn't just a random outburst from a neighbor having a bad day. From the moment we moved in, something felt off. Most of the neighbors were friendly enough, smiles, waves, the usual small talk. But Karen, she was different. Always watching, always ready with a complaint. Whether it was about our recycling bins being out too early or our car being an inch over the line, she always found something to nitpick. We later found out she wasn't just on the HOA board, she practically ran it like her personal kingdom. My wife tried to stay patient. She's not one to start drama. She's dealt with tougher people in courtrooms and high-pressure cases than anyone on our street. But when you're expecting a baby and just trying to enjoy a peaceful home, the last thing you want is someone constantly breathing down your neck about petty rules. And Karen didn't just enforce the rules, she twisted them to suit herself. We heard whispers from neighbors about fines that didn't make sense, warnings that came out of nowhere, even threats about being taken to the board over tiny infractions. But none of that prepared us for what happened that afternoon. Karen's reaction was way over the top. You'd think my wife had just vandalized her property the way she flew across the yard yelling. And while my wife stayed calm, Karen just kept escalating. My wife mentioned she was pregnant and asked her to step back, but Karen didn't care. That's when everything spiraled. What Karen didn't know was that everything was being recorded from multiple angles: our doorbell cam, our neighbor's porch camera, and even a passing car's dash cam. All of it caught in clear detail. And even though it was hard to watch, especially seeing how my wife was treated, we knew we had to stay calm and let the truth speak for itself. But here's the thing. When we started looking deeper into Karen's behavior, we discovered this wasn't her first run-in with a neighbor. And what we found next opened up a much bigger problem than we ever imagined. After we went back and reviewed the security footage, the reality of what happened really sank in. Seeing it from different angles made it even more disturbing. Karen wasn't just having a bad day, she was out of control. But what really started to bother us wasn't just what she did to my wife. It was how the HOA responded. Or more like, Didn't respond at all. The very next morning, we emailed the HOA board, including a copy of the footage and a detailed explanation of what happened. No response. Not even a basic acknowledgement. 2 days later, we followed up. Still nothing. That's when we realized the situation might be bigger than just Karen losing her temper. It started to feel like there was a whole system in place protecting her. Around that time, neighbors began reaching out privately. Some had overheard the incident and wanted to check in. Others had their own stories, some small, some serious. One family had received a letter threatening fines because their kids' bikes were left out for 10 minutes. Another told us Karen once tried to get their dog banned from the community park because it barked too loud. Slowly, a pattern started to emerge. People had been scared to speak up. Karen used her position to intimidate and isolate. And most of the board. Either they were her close friends or they just didn't want to get involved. Meanwhile, my wife kept things quiet. She didn't throw around her job title or demand anything. But behind the scenes, she started reviewing HOA bylaws, checking county ordinances, and gathering records. She wasn't looking for revenge. She just wanted to make sure no one else got treated like this again. What she started uncovering raised even more red flags. There were inconsistencies in how rules were enforced. Fines issued without proper notice. Missing meeting minutes. And possibly some misuse of HOA funds, though we couldn't prove anything yet. The deeper she looked, the more it seemed like Karen had been operating unchecked for years. But just as we were getting close to making sense of everything, something unexpected happened. A note appeared on our doorstep. No name, no return address. Just one short sentence: "Be careful who you trust." That anonymous note changed everything. Up until then, we thought we were dealing with just one overly aggressive HOA board member. But now it felt deeper, like someone else knew what was really going on and maybe even wanted to help or warn us. My wife was quiet for a while after reading it. She's not someone who spooks easily, but this was different. The fact that someone came all the way to our front door, left a message, and vanished without a trace made things feel a lot more personal. We checked the cameras again. Nothing. Somehow, whoever left the note managed to avoid all the angles. Either they knew where the blind spots were, or they lived close enough to time it perfectly. Either way, it meant we weren't just being watched, we were being studied around the same time. My wife filed a formal complaint through the city. It wasn't just about what Karen did, but about how the HOA was operating. We were careful, documenting every step. Still, strange things began happening. Our mailbox was left open 2 days in a row. Our trash bins were tipped over in the night. One morning, we woke up to find a printed copy of the HOA rules shoved under our windshield wiper with certain parts highlighted in red dot. And then the real tension started. We were invited last minute to attend a special HOA meeting. No agenda, no explanation. Just a note slipped into our mailbox asking us to be there. It wasn't a typical meeting. Only a few board members were present, and Karen sat in the middle like she owned the room. No greetings, no small talk, just cold stares. That meeting wasn't about resolving anything. It felt more like an ambush. Karen accused us of harassing the board, spreading lies, and creating division in the community. My wife stayed calm, but I could tell she was ready. She had folders in her lap, carefully organized. But she didn't pull them out, not yet, and just when we thought it couldn't get more intense. One of the quieter board members suddenly spoke up. What he said didn't just shift the mood in the room, made the entire board fall silent. The boardroom fell into this strange frozen silence after that one quiet member finally spoke. His name was Mark. We hadn't paid much attention to him before. He always seemed like the one who just nodded along while Karen ran the show. But when he cleared his throat and said, "Actually, there's something everyone should know," even Karen looked caught off guard. Mark didn't raise his voice. He just leaned forward, looked straight at Karen, and said, "You've gone too far this time, and I'm not going to cover for you anymore." The room shifted. You could feel it. Karen's eyes narrowed, and she forced a smile, trying to play it off. "Mark, this isn't the time," but he cut her off. "No, this is exactly the time. I've seen the footage. I've read the complaints. And I've also seen the emails you've been sending using the HOA account, including the ones you deleted." That stopped everything. My wife and I just exchanged a glance. Emails? Deleted ones. We had no idea there was more than what we'd already found. My wife sat up straight, her folder still in her lap. But now she was listening closely. Mark turned to us and said quietly, "You're not the first people she's tried to intimidate. But you might be the first ones with the right kind of evidence." Karen's face turned stone cold. "You're violating board confidentiality," she snapped. But Mark didn't back down. "You violated your role months ago, maybe years." He glanced at the rest of the board. "And if we keep letting this slide, we're all going down with her." That's when the stakes jumped higher than we ever expected. Karen stood up, slammed her binder shut, and said, "You have no idea who you're dealing with. You think this is about HOA rules? You think this ends in this?"